What's up guys, Owen from Owen Thomas Woodcraft here again. So I've been working a little bit over the holidays, making some end grain cups. But the cool thing about these is they've got handles built in. So this is something you can only really turn on a pole lathe because of the reciprocal backward forward action of a pole lathe. That means you can actually turn a cup with a handle on it out of the same piece of wood and actually turn in between the handle. So I'm going to run you quickly through how I go about making one of these. So we'll be doing the marking out, which is quite a big bit of it, and then then we'll get it onto the lathe, and I'll try and run through what I do on there. Fingers crossed it's all going to work. I've got some really nice sycamore at the moment, some good big diameter stuff. So we'll go a little bit through the timber selection, how to mark out, how to set it out best on the wood that you have. Right, let's crack on. Okay, so as you can see, I've got quite a big diameter log here. It's about 16-inch diameter. You kind of need a big log for making cups, because if you take a section out, there'll be a lot less warpage, and you're also able to completely avoid the pith. The pith's the culprit for so many splits and cracks and stuff, so it's always important that you avoid the pith. So I've got my dividers set to the diameter excuse me, of the cup that I want. So I'm going to mark one in here. Might be a bit difficult to see through the camera. I'm working on cups, they're about 4-inch in diameter at the moment. I'll try and fill that in a little bit so you can see it. Just there. Okay, so it's good to mark the center point as well. And then we can start looking at marking where the handle's going to be. So the most important thing to remember with the handle is that you want to have it so that the grain is so that the growth rings are going along the handle as much as you possibly can. This will give it the maximum strength. If you were to put the handle so that the grain ran across it, you make a much weaker handle. It's a real weak point where the growth rings go. So if it took a knock, it would just separate along the growth rings. If the growth rings are running across it, then you've got much longer fibers. It's a lot stronger. So we're going to mark out where can I get it straight? About there. So marking from that center point. Well, that's no good, is it? I'm going to go. Found a pencil. So marking from the center outwards. That's better. So yeah, mark from that center point outwards so that you've got a nice guideline for your handle. When you're prepping this, you really want to get as much material off of the handle as you can, because it unbalances the blank on the lathe. So obviously you need, it's always going to be a little bit unbalanced. But you just need to minimize, you want to minimize that as much as you possibly can. So I make my handles about half an inch wide, and I come out about 30 centimeters. That'll give me a little bit of leeway, because probably what will happen is we'll lose a little bit of the diameter of the entire cup, which will mean the handle's a bit longer. But that normally seems to give me a comfortable amount to get a good handle out. Okay, so I'm going to split the blank out. I'm going to transfer the diameter onto the underneath as well. I find it's easy if I've got two marks. It makes it easier for me to make the blank straight and even. And the straighter and even it is before you put it on the lathe, the easier it's going to be to turn. There we go. So now I'm just going to start axing. Just start axing around here to get this as close to cup shape as I can. Okay, so that's pretty much what I've got so far. So my next bit is to trim out the handle. So I'm going to do that with a saw, so that I just end up with a smaller handle in the middle. So I don't want to do the whole thing with a handle, though you could if you wanted to. Yep, so marking, sawing, splitting. So this bit's really kind of up to you what size you're going to do your handle on. Because I've made quite a few of these over the past few weeks, I know my measurements. But aesthetically speaking, I think that it's nicer, it looks a bit nicer to have the handle a little bit closer to the top than the bottom, so it's going to be slightly offset. Okay, so that's ready to get a hole drilled in the top. I can mount it on the mandrel, and then we can get it on the lathe. So the first thing I'm going to do is establish a top level for the cup, so I can shape everything else knowing that I know where the top of the cup is. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'm going to round off the part above the handle. Right, so now I've got the rim area all down to size and a decent finish. I've flipped the cup around. I'm going to deal with the bit at the base. So I'm going to form the little foot on there. I'm going to make sure that it's the right depth for what I want. And then I'm going to establish a shape at the bottom. So I get these bits done first, and then I deal with the bit in between the handle, because I find it really helpful to have this top and bottom section done as a bit of a guide to where you're going. Otherwise, you can get a little bit lost with the shape when you're turning. Right, so I'll get this bit started. Right, so I've got the first part of the turning done, as you can see. I've got the top sorted and I've got the bottom sorted. So what I'm going to do now, as you can see, I've taken it off the lathe. I'm just going to even out this part in the middle between the handle. I found that it makes the turning a lot easier. if I trim this a bit more even. I'm sure some of the wizards out there, I'm looking at you, Jared Dahl, probably can do this without trimming it, but my wizard powers aren't strong enough yet, so I'm going to just do a little bit of axe work on that, just to get it a little bit closer to the final shape, and then I'm going to put it back on the lathe, and turn this bit in between the handle. Check it out. Okay, so now I've got this part between the handle turned and reasonably smooth. I'm just going to join up the shape at the bottom here, because you can see it's not quite right. So back to the turning. There we go. So now turn it around and start doing the hollowing. Right guys, that seems like a pretty sweet spot to take a break. So this is going to be the end of the first part of this two-part video on how to turn a mug with a handle on a pole lathe. Next time we'll be looking at doing the hollowing and the finishing off. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and a subscribe. That would be wicked. And I'll catch you next time. So until then, stay sharp and stay positive.